Come along with us in this video as we travel to West Palm Beach, Florida to purchase a car. I actually found this car. We had been looking. We were wanting a convertible just as an extra car. And I had been kind of keeping an eye on things on online listings. And I found one the day that it posted on cars.com. It's really like a unicorn, the color combination, the year with the mileage. There's going to be some pictures later in the video, but this right here is just kind of what we did. Is we left on a Friday afternoon, drove a little over halfway, and then got a hotel room, and then finished the drive on Saturday morning. So we went to Mullinex Ford and picked this car up. And then while we were down there, we thought, well, you know what? We're here. We're a 15-minute drive from the beach. So let's go and, spend some time at the ocean. So we went, and it was James D. MacArthur Beach State Park. This place, this is the kind of the drive into the park. The water here, we had no idea. This is not on the Gulf side. So the water it just blew us away. It was nothing like we were expecting. Absolutely gorgeous. Really just as pretty as Caribbean waters. But as you can see here, so we did buy a Ford Mustang convertible. It does have the brown saddle interior, which is very rare in these, with this special edition white color that was for just this year model only. But anyways, so yeah, after we got everything wrapped up at the dealership, turned the rental car in, we headed out here. We thought, well, we'll spend a couple hours hanging out at the beach, soaking up a little bit of sun, getting a break from being in the car, and just kind of, check it out since we'd never been in this area before. Also, for this part, just a little information. To get in, it's actually only $5 per car, which is so cheap. Just even honestly, the road driving through to get to the parking was so scenic and so pretty. And then it was interesting because you park, and then there was a long boardwalk, which you'll see later in the video, that you walk across a waterway before you get to the beach, and you go through like a little mangrove forest. But they do have a shuttle, is what they call it. It's basically golf carts that they will actually drive you over the boardwalk, so you don't have to walk the whole distance. Because if you were carrying a bunch of stuff, or you had small kids with you and taking bags and food and stuff, it would be quite the trek carrying that. But this is, after you go through the little forest, this is the walkway down to the water. And I mean, just look at that water. And this is no filter. The water was so bright aqua blue. We just couldn't even believe it. You could kind of see, before we could come out into the opening, you kind of could catch a glimpse of the water through the trees. And we were like, oh my God, there's just no way this can't be right. This can't be possible. Because, we weren't expecting a whole lot. I mean, we thought it would be pretty, but where it's not on the Gulf side, we just, really weren't expecting anything super impressive with the watercolor. But as you can see, it is just absolutely gorgeous. And it wasn't very busy. Of course, it is February, but there was just a handful of people out on the water. So it was kind of like we felt like we kind of had the beach almost to ourselves. That was after we started walking one way, towards the left. There were less people when you walk down that way. So as you can see here, the water almost looks like it's glowing. It was just so gorgeous. And, there's nobody around. I will say, of course, we didn't get in the water because the water was very cold. But it did seem like the water got fairly deep pretty quickly. But it did look like there was maybe a sandbar 30 feet out. I'm not sure of. But the water was also really rough that day. And I don't know if that's typical because, like I said, we've never been here before. But it was pretty rough. And it did, there was very little area that was flat. It was like, I guess, where the high tide comes up and it had eroded some. But it seemed to get deep pretty quickly. Had it been warmer, we would have probably got in, just a little bit. But we walked right where the waves kind of wash up, on your feet. And it was refreshing, a little chilly, but it was refreshing. Definitely an experience that we will remember. And it was an added bonus to this little random weekend road trip to go buy a car. So the park does have, I think it's right around 2 miles of shoreline for you to, walk, explore, sunbathe, whatever it is you want to do. And then I also did read that this is a prime nesting site for turtles. They did have quite a bit of material and stuff at the little visitor center. And then they also have 2 picnic pavilions. I think one of the pavilions, I seen a sign. I think it has maybe like 10 tables at the pavilion. It's accommodated to hold I want to say it was 80 people. They also, I did see they have 3 beach wheelchairs that are available for rent at no charge. And then you also, they have a kayak rental at the visitor center for the little waterway there where the boardwalk is. And you can just, kind of paddle around there. I don't know, we do quite a bit of kayaking, but it's typically in rivers. It did look to me like that the current, you would be fighting a pretty good current, at least at the time we were there. I don't know, like I said, the water was kind of rough and it was windy. So that may have just, happened to be like the day that we were there. I don't recall, I don't think we seen anyone out on kayaks that day. But the park wasn't super, super busy anyways. They do have an amphitheater there. It's a really cool place. I wish that we would have had more time to really explore the park, kind of go around and check things out. But, we had originally planned on driving down, purchasing the car, and then driving straight back. But we were so tired, that's when we made the decision to kind of, break it up going home. That way it would give us a little time here at the beach. And we ended up staying in right outside of Savannah on the way back. But I definitely would love to go back, especially after seeing this water. Would love to go back and check things out, have a little more time just to explore the area. Another thing I noticed about this beach that I thought was pretty interesting is the shells. Almost all of them seem to still be whole. They weren't broken up. And a lot of beaches that we go to, you'll find shells that are not broken, but that's kind of, they're scattered amongst all the pieces of the shells. But here it was like, as we were walking, it was like every shell was still whole, which I just thought was pretty interesting. Again, it may be something with this area. I'm not really sure, but that just kind of stood out to me that there weren't a lot of broken shells. I also loved all the birds that were just kind of hanging out on the beach. And, as you would approach them, they all would just take off flying over the water, which was just kind of magical to watch. And they would almost just kind of circle back around and land just a little further down the beach, or kind of circle around and land behind you. So this part right here is like we kept walking, and it was just like a steady flow that they just kept, starting to fly away as we were walking along, which just, I don't know, it was just magical to me. So going back to the whole car process, we typically, where we live, I don't know, there's something to do with the car market around here. The prices are just higher. We haven't bought a car local in years. I don't even know. I guess probably 15 years ago was the last time I bought a local car, and it was brand new. But as far as used cars, the markets outside of our area are just so much better. But just a little tip. I know it's kind of a risk that you take buying a car that, you can't see in person. But if you work out the deal, and then like what we did is I worked out the deal with the salesman, got the numbers and everything agreed on, and then we did the financing through our credit union. And then I paid a deposit to hold the car because it was like 2 days before we could get down there. And where the car had just been listed, I wanted to make sure, because I knew if you search, there was 3 in the whole United States that had the color combination with the car that we bought. So I knew it would sell quickly, and it only had 29,000 miles on it. One owner. So I paid a deposit on it. And the good thing with that is, you've already worked the deal out. Of course, I had them send, detailed videos of the car walking around, everything, the condition of the top. Have them show you like the instrument cluster to make sure there's no lights on, the condition of the wheels, raise the hood, stuff like that. So when you get to the dealership, we were there, I'm going to say, from the time that we pulled in the dealership, we met with the salesman. Of course, we test drove the car, checked everything out, looked under the hood, all that good stuff. And then signed the title and tag paperwork and stuff, give them the check. We were there like an hour and maybe 10, 15 minutes. And, anyone that's ever bought a car, that is unheard of. Like if you go to the dealership and you don't have the deal worked out first, sometimes you can be there. It's like an all-day thing. I really think that they do it intentionally. They keep you there all day, so you're so tired and worn down from being there, and you're so ready to leave that I think, maybe it's a tactic to where I don't know if it's proven or not, but you just maybe give in, or, go along with, some of their sales tactics and pressures. But there's none of that if you work the deal out first, because, everything's done. We had our check in hand when we walked in, so there was no, do you want to add all this? You want to add paint protection, fabric protection, extended warranty, stuff like that. And, if you want to add that stuff, by all means, go for it. But I just hate being there at a car dealership for 4, 5, 6, 7 hours, because it's an awful experience just sitting around waiting. And I will tell you, this dealership, I would highly recommend them. They don't charge any kind of dealer fees, anything like that. And they really, they were on the ball when we got there. They brought the car around. Once we drove it, and we were like, okay, yep, let's sign the papers. Let's do this. They got right on it. So I have to commend them for that, because some car dealerships are not that way. But yeah, so that's just my tip. If you are buying something that's not local, if you're comfortable with it, worst case scenario, you drive to where the car is, it doesn't check out, you just, walk away without purchasing the car. Which for us, it was an 11-hour and 15-minute, 11.5-hour drive. That would have really not been very fun to have had to drive home without the car. But, if something hadn't checked out, that's what we would have done. But I felt confident. We've done this numerous times. And honestly, we've never shown up to buy a car. We've probably bought 10 or 11 cars out of state like this. And I've never, not one time, shown up and there's been something crazy that, once you're there in person, that's like a deal breaker with as far as the car goes. So after spending 2.5 hours or so on the beach, walking around, taking videos, we sat for a while and just kind of stared at the water. We decided it was time to head on back to the car. So this is the little walkway that takes you from the beach back into the little forest area, and the little boardwalk area. It takes you to the visitor center, the bathrooms, the amphitheater, a couple other little things right there. But it was just, I'm so glad that we stopped here. It was just a random, while we were sitting at the dealership waiting for the finance manager, I was like, well, let me see if I can find a spot for us to just go and, check out the ocean for a little bit since we're so close. And I'm so glad that we did go to this place. It's definitely, if we ever go back to this area, I would like to go again. Because, just the walk, as you can see here, it's just... everything it's just so magical. And this is where I was talking about, you can kind of see the water through the trees as you walk up, and just get, a glimpse of that beautiful, beautiful, bright blue, gorgeous water. The bathrooms are very nice. It had a really nice little gift shop. Like I said, their little kayak rental place was there. This right here, this was the long boardwalk that takes you over the waterway. And this is the area where you can kayak. I'm not exactly sure where the actual launch is from, but this is the area that you can kayak around. And this is also the area, I want to say it's, I don't know, maybe a half to 3/4 of a mile long, the entire boardwalk. But this is the part where the shuttle, the little golf cart shuttle, will take you, and it drops you off at the end there. And from there, it's I don't know as far as the distance, but it's not far at all. But to me, I mean, this is part of the experience. I get, if you're carrying a bunch of stuff, you want the shuttle. But we didn't have anything, and we actually, as a matter of fact, it was cold at home. So when we got down there, all we had were pants and our shoes, hoodies. So we actually, when we decided we were going to go to the beach, we just stopped at a Ross, bought some shorts. I bought a pair of flip-flops, just so we could have something a little more comfortable to wear to the water. But you can see here, even the water here in this little waterway was very pretty. It didn't look too deep to me in certain spots, because you could see the bottom, but I'm pretty sure you can fish from here. We didn't really see anybody doing so, but they had a couple little spots where you could stop. They had benches and the little covered area there, but it was just it's a really neat place, and for $5 per car, I just don't feel like you can beat it. So this footage here is the walkway through the parking lot. There was actually several little parking lots. I want to say they had 20 to 30 spots in each little parking area. And then between them, you had these little walk paths kind of through the little forest areas. So even just, walking from your car to the beach was kind of an experience in itself. And there was several nature trails within the park. Like I said, sadly, we weren't there long enough to really get to take full advantage of that. But for the $5 that it cost to get into the park, we definitely got our money's worth, because it was just the parts that we seen, it was well worth it. And like I said, just these little paths just to get to your car, it was worth it to me. But it was from the car but to the actual beach, it was a little bit of a walk. I'm going to say probably total, maybe a mile, something like that. But, it's flat. So, it's not a hard walk or anything like that. And then this is the road going back out. And the thing I love about state parks is typically they seem to be, the ones we've been to, they're usually kind of off the main road, especially in coastal areas. And there's just so much vegetation, and it's just so scenic just driving to get into and out of the park. And that to me was worth the $5 just to drive through and see this. Plus we love, anytime we go somewhere that we've never been before, we always like to try to just stop and check out some area, just as a new adventure, just to see a new place that we've never been to before. Well, this pretty well wraps up our video of our little road trip, but I wanted to end the video with a couple pictures of the car. So here she is. We decided to name her Stella, and we are super excited about having a convertible for some summer drives once the weather does warm up around here. But I hope you all enjoyed the video, and we'll see you in the next one.